My name is Alexander Ernert. I'm the Director for Government Relations at Trainline, Europe's leading independent platform for the sale of rail and bus tickets, a digital sale, that some of you may be familiar with. I'm happy to give a brief introduction today to this Fireside chat on behalf of EU Travel Tech, our European trade association. EU Travel Tech represents indirect distributors of travel services in the Brussels policy debate. This concretely means online travel agencies like Trainline, but also Booking.com and Expedia Group. It also includes meta search engines like Skyscanner, equally B2B aggregators of travel offers and data such as Amadeus, Travelport, and equally Trainline, as well as travel management companies that act as travel agents for corporations such as Amex Global Business Travel. Multimodal ticketing and MDMS regulation have been at the heart of EU Travel Tech's activities over the past years, because EU Travel Tech members are in fact MDMS, as digital platforms distributing all sorts of passenger transport services. They have a keen interest to support a solid regulation. It shall enable them to play their role as transparency providers for consumers. In this light, EU Travel Tech has been advocating for an ambitious MDMS regulation that obliges Europe's large operators to open their ticket systems since the beginning, alongside many other organizations representing consumers, environmental interests, and smaller operators. We believe Europe's transport system can be used in a more efficient and greener manner if travelers are given the chance to easily search, select, and combine any services, including multimodal connections. Around this time of the year, many Europeans are traveling for their summer holidays and will have had a hard time finding the best travel options and sustainable alternatives to flight-only or car traveling online. The MDMS regulation will aim to solve this exact problem, providing a real benefit to EU citizens in line with the EU ambitious goals on greening transport. I will now hand over to Dave Keating of France 24 and Daniel Mes of Executive Vice President Timmermans' Cabinet, who will take us through the latest political discussions on this topic. Our audience will certainly have a strong interest to hear more about what may be expected from the Commission's proposal this fall. Happy to hand over to Dave.
Thanks very much, and welcome everybody to today's Fireside chat, what to expect from multimodal ticketing under the MDMS proposal. So we're talking about something today that could really revolutionize the way that we travel. Right now, lots of people are taking journeys using multiple flights without realizing that there are actually more appealing multimodal routes involving connections with trains or buses. Those routes could be cheaper, they could be less time, and they certainly would be less carbon emissions, but people don't see them because they're not there in their search when they're looking at their travel options. Now, right now, there are 2 airlines in Europe that are showing customers potential train connections that on their own websites. But in general, it's very hard to get both train companies and airlines to share the data needed to build third-party multimodal search tools. So that's where this multimodal digital mobility services proposal comes in. And today's discussion is timely because the MDMS potential proposal has just been submitted to the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, and we're now in a kind of analysis period before any further action is taken, which will come after the summer break. Now, this summer, the proposal has been postponed, and in the past weeks and months, there has been some concern that it could be watered down or it could not have the same ambition as was originally thought. So today we're going to hear about where we are in terms of this proposal and what's expected for the autumn once this really gets moving. Before we start, a few housekeeping notes. You guys will be able to ask your questions to Daniel at the end of the chat. You can type those questions in using the chat feature, and I'll read them out to him. Please identify your name and your organization when you put in your question. That chat button should be right up there at the top of your Teams screen. Also, I want to let you know that today's discussion is being recorded, so you can watch it back anytime you like on the EU Travel Tech website, maybe in September after you return from your amazing holidays and need to catch up back into the world of Brussels policy. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Daniel Mes, who is, as was mentioned before, a member of Cabinet for Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans, who's in charge of the Green Deal for the European Commission. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let me start off by asking you, what exactly is this proposal? Where did it come from, and why is the Commission interested in doing this?
Yeah, no, indeed, sure. And it's indeed a good moment to talk about that because people are booking their traveling options as we speak now for the holidays. Now, this is also really important for the European Green Deal that you mentioned, Dave, because the European Green Deal is also about making sustainable travel accessible and affordable for all. And indeed, for us, one of the keys there is that you want passengers to be able to mix and match these travel options together, and of course, including the sustainable ones like rail that you mentioned. And currently, if you see what the landscape looks like, it doesn't look all too good to really get that off the ground. If you just look at travel between European cities across our continent, only 1 out of 10 passengers is choosing the train as a travel option for that. And it's even not 1 out of 10, it's even closer to half a person, if you want to speak in those terms. And that, of course, is something that ideally changes for the benefit of consumers and if they are a passenger. We really also want that train option to become a solid one, just as booking a flight, as we currently do very often. But for that, a lot of work is necessary. Because there are many obstacles now that hold people back from booking these sustainable multimodal journeys. They cannot find all the connections easily. They don't even see them when they go on a website or a platform. They can't book those tickets enough in advance to really plan for their journey. And let's face it, the price is often also such that we immediately scramble to an airline site again to book a flight. So there are many problems to overcome. And this proposal coming in autumn, the multimodal ticketing proposal, is really meant, in our view, in the Cabinet of Timmermans, to be a game changer to really tackle all of these issues, to really set a framework for companies to work together to make this experience of multimodal booking far better, and really on all these practical levels. So making it easier to see all the connections. Making it easier to find them, hence making it easier to book them, and of course at a price that is also affordable and the travel protections that we need. And that's what we're after with this proposal, something really practical that, well, you say revolutionize, and I say, yeah, which could be a game changer to make this happen. So we're really looking for this game changer and not preserving the status quo or the situation as is, or even an incremental step forward.
Now, obviously, this would make life easier for consumers and travelers. You're from the Cabinet of the Climate Vice President. You alluded to this a bit, but can you explain explicitly why would this proposal have climate benefits?
But the climate benefits come from that the sustainable travel options ideally become a bigger part of the mix. If you're able to mix and match the different travel options, as you say, also use train connection, even for part of your journey, you're taking the environmentally friendly transport mode, but currently you may be held back from that because it's not easy for you to find the tickets. You think they're too expensive. The Green Deal is always cast as like setting the targets and telling what people want to do. But we also need to empower people to make the right choice. And as said, a lot needs to be done, and climate benefits will then ensue. If you have like a passenger mix that comes closer to that doesn't stay at like only 1 out of 10 passengers take the train. Just to mention an example, you really preserve some environmental benefits for that. So it's also really a proposal that matters for our climate agenda.
Now, there are two potential models being discussed for this right now. One would send customers off to other websites, essentially, to book tickets separately. The other would make sure that actually those third-party websites, you could book one combined ticket, that you get one ticket for your rail journey and your plane journey together. What is the thinking of you and your cabinet in terms of which of those models is better?
Yeah, no, thanks. And that's the question that indeed allows me to go to the heart of where we are right now in terms of discussions inside the Commission. We really start from the passenger perspective here. And some of these platforms were mentioned already, Skyscanner, Trainline, all these platforms that are out there. And indeed, for some consumers, what works is that they purely go on a website where they can compare the different options. And then after have found the option that they want, they are redirected to the website of the airline or the train company itself to actually book that. And if they have multiple travel options, these customers are then fine to do a bit of self-assembly, like almost like an IKEA table. I'm fine with just assembling all of this ultimately myself. But there are many consumers out there for whom that is actually too complicated, and then they stop bothering about it. What these consumers want is that they go on one website, see all the options, the prices of these options, and then they click one button and they book that journey even across different transport means and across different transport companies. I fit into that last category. I prefer that I'm just one click away from booking the multimodal journey. And I believe that there are actually many consumers also with me in that sense, that is what they want. But it allows me to go to really the heart of the matter here. I said earlier on that from our cabinet's perspective, we want to have a game changer proposal. And if you wanted to discuss a game changer proposal coming out of the summer, all the options need to be on the table. All the options need to go indeed to the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, as you mentioned. Those are the independent checkers inside the Commission of the cost and benefits of each of our proposals. And it's important to have all these options on the table. Now, I'm aware that there were signals out there that the Commission would have gravitated towards only this relinking of the websites, so this self-assembly model, that would have been already now the preferred option. And I can say today that is not the case. All options are at the table. We had a discussion about this between the relevant cabinets, not only my cabinet and the cabinet of Allianz, but also, for instance, the cabinet of Margrethe Vestager. And on the 19th of July, indeed, the impact assessment went to the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, who will now check the cost and benefits of the options. And all options are back at the table so that we can have really a meaningful political discussion about this after summer.
In terms of why consumers might not like this relinking approach, is there an element of risk for a consumer involved here as well? Because a lot of people would be worried that if they buy two tickets separately and that first ticket is delayed, let's say a train to a plane, that train is delayed, they miss their flight. When the two tickets haven't been purchased together, actually they're not protected from missing that second leg of the journey. Is that part of the calculation here?
Yeah, and I think that each consumer will, of course, do what he or she is comfortable with. You do, of course, have the protection of the airline or the train company in question when you book that ticket online. It indeed does get a bit more complicated if you have different transport means and different transport operators, that if you take a train and the train is delayed, you stand on the platform and you want to book your flight, that you come into a situation, what do I do right now? The sector is, of course, also working itself on ways to do that. And there are passengers who are comfortable with that. The reason why I myself use the reselling option, so to say, because to make that one-click booking work, you actually need transport companies to allow a platform to resell you the ticket directly. One of the benefits that I like a lot from some of these providers, I'm not going to name check them because otherwise I'm making an advertisement, but just to give you an example, delays do happen, and then you have European passenger rights to get compensation or to be rerouted to your destination. And there are resellers out there, so these people that are allowed to resell not to purely work with these linking of websites, but to resell the ticket directly. And then what these people offer is that they take over your compensation claim for you. And for me, that is, for instance, a humongous benefit that I don't have to bother myself about asking for the compensation claim when there's a delay, but that the other people do that. And for us, it's indeed very relevant to preserve that space of innovation, because it's really something that brings a lot to consumers. And there are then also different ways to indeed have your passenger protection as you want it.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the difficulties here has been getting the transport operators to share the data that's needed to build these type of third-party multimodal ticketing tools. Why do you think transport companies have been so reticent to share this data, and what can get over that hurdle? What can enable that data sharing where it hasn't been done so far?
Yeah. Yeah, indeed, because like when we are a passenger, the thing that we see is the platform and the booking buttons. That's a bit the front office that we see. But for that front office to work, you really need a back office, an engine room to really work properly. And data is indeed key there. So for anybody who is willing to resell a ticket to you, like a platform operator that resells the tickets, they need access to crucial data to make that work. They need access to all the fares. They need access to the discounts that can be offered. They need real-time information. Will a train be delayed? What platform will it arrive? And that essential data is currently not being shared sufficiently in this whole value chain of companies to make that work for the consumer when booking a multimodal journey. And actually, the problem has become so grave that competition authorities across Europe had to step in. That applies notably to the railway companies that, of course, look at their own mainly national rail network when making their business, and currently feel a bit uncomfortable to share that data with platforms in order to sell those tickets. And we're also in constant dialogue also with them that in order to avoid that you get competition proceedings to force you in a competition case to share that data, that's better to just work also with us on a framework that does work, to share that data so that these tickets can really be offered, because there will be no front office if the back room doesn't work. And notably in rail, that they're really far behind compared to the airlines when it comes to sharing the data that allows us to go on a platform and find the relevant tickets. So it's really a question about like, how do you make sure that people are comfortable that the commercial interest is such that this should really take off. So the data access is important. What is also important is a bit the commercial dealing that goes on in this back room, because before a reseller platform sells your tickets, they have commercial agreement with the transporter company what type of fee they get for the service of selling you the ticket. And that is also an important part of the puzzle that we're looking into, to make sure that we improve this situation, that we look a bit beyond vested interest and protecting one's own market position, but that one tries to grow the pie for everybody, to have more tickets available so that more passengers use the services, and more people, everybody earns more money on that basis, and passengers get what I think they would like to see to take multimodal journeys.
Now, one of the other questions floating around this particular policy file is the scope. Should this only apply to big airlines, big rail companies? What is the Commission's thinking in terms of who this should apply to?
Yeah, that is something that indeed is now, like, as I said, the impact assessment that went to the Regulatory Scrutiny Board has all these options, like the relinking of website self-assembly, enabling that, or enabling both, actually, like the relinking of websites and the reselling. The discussion is then also like, to what extent do you cover all the transport modes in the equal way? I think that if you look at this, really where the problem has started, because also in our cabinet, we're not in the business of regulating for the sake of regulating. You consider to regulate to solve a problem, and the problem seems to be most prevalent when a company has a very powerful position, is sort of a gatekeeper for data, just given the influence it has as a transport company, and making it easier to just go their own way, their own commercial way, and not sharing the data, or sharing with the one and not with the other and on different terms. That's really a problem of that market power, so to say. So we are indeed closely looking at, when is this market power of a transport company so big that one needs to consider regulating to make sure that there are commercially fair deals across this value chain of companies, so that we get the journeys that we want. So there is obviously then a natural focus on companies that have that powerful position. I think that there is nobody that really denies that a railway company has that power, and on airlines, there's still a bit of an open discussion on that. We do want people to be able to mix and match different travel options. It is a multimodal proposal and not a proposal that is only targeted at rail, but you do also need to look at what is the scope of the problem, how much data is not being shared, and we probably have to make a start across the transport means. But when it comes to inclusion, notably of airlines, where you do see that more data is being shared and the flights are also cheaper as a result, it seems to be a bit of a different cat than with the railway companies. But we are looking at ways to make this truly multimodal, and also, our doors are also equally open. I spoke a lot about railway companies, but the door is also open, of course, for our friends in the airline industry to come to us and say what works and what would not work.
Now, obviously, this type of data sharing involves some effort by the transport operators involved, and when you're talking about different companies, there are different financial incentives. Would part of this proposal involve looking at the question of fees for the data sharing, what third-party companies could charge? Maybe is fees part of this proposal?
Yeah, the fees that go from one end to the other in order to notably allow for the reselling of a ticket on a platform is indeed part of the work streams that we're working on, because it's one thing to get the data that you need in order to offer this ticket, and it's another thing whether you get a good deal as a reseller out of it that makes that your business can thrive, and you can offer all these innovations that are also mentioned. And of course, a fee works best if it works for both sides of the transaction.
Let's talk a bit about timing before I open it up to the audience. We've already had some questions come in for you. Again, if you have a question for Daniel, put them into the chat. So we are coming toward the end of the current term. We are a little less than 1 year away from the next European Parliament elections. If this proposal comes out in September, could we expect that it would even be possible that it could be adopted before the end of this term? And if not, what does that mean in terms of when this could actually apply?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for the question, because it also allows me to talk a bit about the other important part of this discussion at this stage inside the Commission, because it depends a bit on how we solve that conundrum inside the Commission, on how quick we can go out of the proposal and how quick it actually can go also past Parliament and Council. When you really look at the positions that I at least now have heard so far in the Commission, we have indeed a Transport Commissioner, for example, who, when weighing the inclusion of this reselling option on top of just linking the websites, for her an important factor in weighing all of this is like, will I come up with a proposal that will lead to such a degree of infighting between the transport company and the operators, that actually the degree of infighting will make that we don't produce quick results for consumers. Now, that is also, in our view, a valid point, and that's why I'm also saying today, just to give some transparency about what the political discussion will be about after summer, before we come out with the proposal. I expect this to be an important part of that discussion, because we, as the Cabinet of Timmermans, are also not interested in making a proposal that only leads to further infighting and not quick results. We really want to present a feel-good story to consumers, not the Avengers Next Infinity Wars. So also for us, fairness should work both ways. The fairness of the deal, of the business deal that allows for the reselling, should probably be fair for both sides, so that people are comfortable with it. And I at least get signals, notably from the bigger railway companies, because let's face it, they also are the discussion partner. I get signals from them that when fairness could work both ways, then they can certainly talk about how to facilitate also this reselling. So I expect really a lot of energy to go into that. And for us, the guiding principle in that discussion that we will then have also with the Transport Commission and the Cabinet, it's also like that we talk about this fairness that works both ways, but that we also keep on realizing that modern ticketing to fit a modern transport system that we want is a responsibility for all and is an opportunity for all. It's a responsibility for all because if you take again the example of rail, we as many citizens as taxpayers pay a lot of money to finance the railways to get the service that we need, and you know we can expect something back in terms of like just getting tickets easier at a good price. So it's the common responsibility of all to really work with us on doing this right. And it's an opportunity for all because I would expect that if there's also more reselling, more tickets will be sold on trains, and then everybody can earn more money. You see some experiences of countries like Italy where the market has opened up and actually it grew for everyone. And then from the reselling platform also accepting that a responsible business deal that also allows the railway companies, for instance, to keep on investing in this good railway service is also to the benefit of all. So that will be, I think, the guiding, the guide to our discussions right after summer. We hope indeed that we can still come out in September, early October, and I would say that if you come out with a proposal that also in Parliament and Council feels more like this feel-good story rather than just infighting, it might actually also go quicker in these two institutions. There are lots of members of European Parliament really interested in this. They've also sent letters already to the Commission to really encourage us to look at all the different options. Member States and the Council are waking up. So when we come out quick enough, you know, let's see if we can then come at a situation that the first positions of European Parliament and Council can still be for the elections, and who knows, perhaps we can even then still start negotiations between those two sides to really deliver this.
So within the realm of possibility, but maybe difficult in terms of the time. Let me also ask you about the elephant in the room here, which is that your boss may become a candidate to be the next Dutch prime minister and may be leaving the Commission very shortly. You mentioned that there are some differences of approach here between the cabinets. If Vice President Timmermans does leave, where does that leave the approach of the Timmermans cabinets? Some people that prefer your approach might be worried that with the Vice President's departure, that approach gets beaten out.
Yeah. No, like I expected that elephant to also come into the room, so to say. Until the end of this month, it's business as usual. He announced his willingness to be the candidate, and then by the end of this month, the left and Green parties, the Labour and Green parties, sorry, in the Netherlands will decide whether they actually nominate him as a candidate. So for now, is business as usual. That's also how we've operated, also with the Cabinet of Valean, that this is still business as usual. Yeah, but then we have to wait and see what happens after that. There's of course also this slight risk that me and my cabinet members turn into pumpkins after a departure of my boss. Then still, as you know, Dave, you're a veteran of you. You know, there's still reshuffling possible, but you know, I think that even if then my hope would be that the voice that we've been representing in this debate will continue to be represented inside the Commission. For instance, if you take the competition department, they also have a keen interest in this and are very likely to continue to be ambitious. when it comes to proposal to want this game changer proposal. So my hope is that then in that situation, the voice in that sense will still be heard and then voiced by others.
Well, we certainly hope you don't turn into a pumpkin. We'll see what happens in the autumn. Okay, let's take some questions from the audience. We have a question here from Isabel Smets. I think this came in when we were talking about the relinking approach, so I'm pretty sure this question is about relinking. Okay, Isabel Smets from Context. Thank you for the chat. In the case of option 1, that is relinking, what difference with the obligations already in force as part of the ITS directive?
Yeah, that's a pretty technical question, but like in the option 1, which is only relinking, and then the option 2 is sort of a combination of relinking and having the reselling option. The relinking is broader than the relinking obligation will be broader than what is currently in the Intelligent Transport System Directive. You do indeed have already quite some embryos of this data sharing and interoperability to allow for this relinking in the ITS. For instance, when it comes to sharing of real-time travel information, like is a train or something else delayed or not, but like the relinking would be broader than that. It would really cover all the aspects, not only the technical ones, but also the commercial ones that different parties in the value chain need to make relinking of websites possible, so both technical and commercial. And that would then also have to happen on that would have to be enabled on fair and reasonable terms. So there would have to be a fair deal to make that relinking possible. So it would be broader than what is in the ITS, but it would build on what's in the ITS.
So we have a question here about basically the apps used by rail incumbents at the moment. The question is from Salim Bekeren from All Rail, the Alliance of Passenger Rail New Entrants. It is also crucial to ensure that large MDMS platforms such as SNCF Connect, DB Navigator, and DACO enter into agreement with willing transport operators so that the latter's products are shown and sold on these large platforms who have an overly dominant market share. Unfortunately, the EU Commission seems to have lowered its ambition in this regard. Could you explain the reason behind this? Can we expect from the EU Commission to return to its previous level of ambition? So should those tools by the big players be required to display the options from smaller new entrants?
I think that, like as I said already before, now that we've entered this stage that it goes to our Regulatory Scrutiny Board, all options really in reality are back on the table. Like the option that allows also for the reselling, which also Oriel obviously is interested in. That option is building on like what was in the original impact assessment before people went back and worked on another one to present. So really all these options, like all options are on the table, and the crux will still be this discussion on like how do we make sure that the fairness works both ways, that people are comfortable with more comfortable, because I guess we won't live in a world where everybody will be super comfortable, but like more comfortable to take this forward. And again, I really got signals from the railway companies not represented by All Rail, but like the former incumbents in the markets, that is a discussion that they're willing to engage in. This was not part of the All Rail question, but like because it, for instance, also applies to, when a platform that resells the tickets, what happens if that platform then becomes dominant and starts sort of like dictating the world the other way around? Of course, the proposal would also need the options would also need to look at how do you build in belts and braces that the deal stays fair in that instance as well. We're really looking for a workable framework for commercial negotiations to work across the board. So
next question here from Hanna Kokelev from Politico. You say all the options, relinking, reselling, fees, etc., are on the table. Is there any indication of one such scenario winning out? What will determine which one comes out on top in the autumn? And he wants you to triple confirm. Did I understand correctly that the proposal is now broadly expected in September or early October?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, there are two stages in this process. The first stage is the pure factual stage, where the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, so the independent checkers of the cost and benefits of any of our proposals of the European Commission, not only this one, but any significant proposal that we make, they weigh this in a very independent manner, and we're not going to wade into that stage. The Regulatory Scrutiny Board works independently, so we'll look at these different options, the options only relinking of websites, the option relinking of websites and also allowing for reselling on fair terms, and then they will deliver their verdict factually on the cost and benefits of each of these options, and their job will be to inform us, the political decision makers inside the Commission, so my boss, Valian, and all the other commissioners, to inform us which of these options has the biggest ratio of like benefits compared to the cost. So which one is really the best for society overall? That's a factual exercise that is happening, and we're not going to wade into that because that needs to run its course. Then on top, of course, you have the political discussion going on how do we wet the different views on this. And for that discussion right after summer, as I said, what will be crucial is this discussion on fairness working both ways, in especially allowing for the reselling option to be in there. So the option that a platform can also directly sell the ticket, the one click away option, and that will be the political discussion. You know, how do you are there ways to make sure that that this can work, reflecting some of the qualms that the Transport Commissioner has, and some of the viewpoints of the others in this debate, and that we will have with the Transport Commissioner and the Cabinet after summer, when she is returned from holidays and everybody's returned from holidays.
We'll all be different people when we come back from holidays, I think.
Yeah.
So next question is from Laurent Walters. Air and rail already exists in one click, rail and air not. We also experience that rail carriers that do not want to be fully displayed within air search results. So is part of the problem here that just the rail operators just don't want to be listed in those air search results, and why would that be? And also, so this is a related question also from Hannah from Politico. No, sorry, this is from Salim, again, from AllRail. Looking at the tight timeline before the elections next year and the particularly big issues we see in rail, wouldn't it be best to focus on rail with this proposal to push it through as soon as possible, especially given the fact that the EU Commission considers to make rail transport the backbone of multimodal transport? So are rail companies resisting here? Why are they resisting? And should maybe the proposal only focus on rail?
Yeah. No, like I understand the people like present today to indeed focus a lot on the rail sector. I think it's also logical because you at the same time see all these competition cases going on, exactly about all these questions about like, are the dominant railway companies, are they sharing the data enough? And it's also like just pure commercial interest that guides these discussions. But I think that even for railway companies, like, it would always be preferable just to have a framework that could work across Europe, that is fair for both sides, rather than to have to face all these competition cases across Europe. It's also not a comfortable position to be in as a company. So we are really trying to also have this dialogue with them, saying, you know, the common framework would be good, and how can we make sure that that everybody can experience what we have experienced in Italy, that the creation of more of a competitive space, also now in this case in selling of tickets to consumers, makes everybody grow, makes the pie bigger. I think that's the discussion to have, and of course that would have to then also be linked to still discussions on like public-private investment in the railway network. Tickets is a very important part of this equation. It's not the only one. The train service also needs to be allowed to be quicker and convenient. So all of that will be part of this. And then the question on like multimodal versus just rail. I think that we have to now take this forward in terms of a multimodal proposal. And again, my hope in all of this discussion, if one finds a way that it's fair for all sides, but still works and yields enough results for the consumers, which are the prime interest of everybody here. I think that only companies that are really of good faith in wanting to make this experience, which are in the word of the Transport Commissioner herself, the ticket experience is underwhelming right now, she said a few weeks ago. Everybody who's a good faith has an interest in making that experience better, I would say, because the more people, in this case, take the train or mix and match it with a flight, it should benefit everybody. But we just need to overcome this challenge. How do we deal best with the short-term profits that are going around in this value chain? And we just need to, I think, keep cool heads in this and see how we can solve that, so that the proposal is still that game changer that we at least are after.
I think we have time for 2 more questions since we started a bit late, but we'll do them quickly. So this next question is from Victor Thevenet from TNE. Are cross-border journeys included in the scope of the reselling options submitted to the RSB? And second question is from Jakob Rome from Europe on Rail, the network of environmental civil societies supporting EU climate goals through European Rail. How can it be ensured or supported in MDMS that no unintentional shift from rail to air happens? So in other words, is there a risk here that if you show people flight options that are much cheaper than rail, which they generally are, is there a risk that this proposal could actually result in the opposite of what the Commission wants in terms of climate, making people shift from rail to air?
Yeah. Now, on the first question, are cross-border train services included in the option that has both relinking and reselling? The answer is very short. It's yes. And that is also, in my view, logical, because when we came out, so this whole proposal was sort of born when we presented this as a commission. We presented an action plan on how we want to give passenger rail a boost to make it more of a attractive travel option across the continent. And we obviously focused on these cross-border services, these services between different European cities. So it would be very odd if that option were to exclude then the cross-border service and only look at domestic train service. So I'm still giving a longer answer than just like simply yes, but the answer is simply yes, it's included. And then on the question like reverse move to air, I think that in the current situation where we cannot even find all the train connections and we cannot book them in advance as we can book a flight in advance, and we don't get the fare that one would like to see. I said in the beginning, currently we are in a situation that many of us just scramble immediately for the airline website when they find out how difficult it is to find the journey, the train journey, to book the train journey. So we're currently in a situation where people are almost like automatically redirected to the flight. It's just far easier to find, far easier to book, no questions asked. So anything that improves that, I think, would be to the benefit of the sustainable travel option.
And I guess it's true that somebody looking for a train from, let's say, Brussels to Berlin, they probably already know that the flight is probably cheaper and definitely shorter, but they're probably going to the rail website to look intentionally because they, for whatever reason, don't want to fly.
You can have your kids walk around in comfort like freely, and that's a benefit for me, like at least like with my 3 kids, and you can work from the train, you can comfortably open your laptop, and like there are people who are looking for that too. Yeah,
lots of reasons why rail travel can be much more comfortable than air travel for sure. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, on August 1st, in the middle of the summer. It's greatly appreciated. And I think, as you say, now we're in this reflection period, and we can look forward to some action on this in September and October. And then it's going to be up to the co-legislators, the MEPs and the national governments, to see how enthusiastically they greet this and whether there is enough agreement there that this could be pushed through before the end of the term. We'll see in the autumn when this comes out what kind of reaction it gets. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to all at home for spending a little bit of your afternoon with us. I wish you all some great August multimodal holidays. Take care.